My name is Alan Dick. I'm one of the co-founders of Commerce Next, and along with Veronica Sonsev and Scott Silverman, we want to thank you all for being here today. I forgot just how much I like being blinded by Klieg lights for the past 18 months. I've truly missed that. But it is really, really neat to see people in 3 dimensions again. So quite happy to have you here, and thank you so much for joining us. So like we said, the past 18 months certainly have been e-commerce's time to shine, but as customer expectations increase, the stakes have never been higher. Consumers increasingly demand engaging and personalized experiences 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, wherever they are and however they're viewing it. In this session, Elissa Quinby, the Senior Director of Retail Marketing at Centric, and Roshan Varma, the Vice President of Digital at Tapestry, are going to discuss how Tapestry blends traditional methods with modern technologies to deliver reliable and engaging online experiences for their customers. So how about a round of applause for Elissa and Roshan? Take it away.
All right, that's the show. Thanks everyone for coming.
Thank you so much for joining us and spending your lunch with us. And thank you to Commerce Next for hosting us today. I love that video. It seriously makes me want to get up and dance. I'm Elissa Quinby. I'm the Senior Director of Retail Marketing at Centric. We're a company that helps other companies build digital products faster using continuous product design. I've got Roshan Varma with me here today. He's the VP of Digital at Tapestry. His team leads digital business enablement across the global brands, including Coach, Kate Spade, and Stuart Weitzman, as we just saw. And his team owns performance operations, testing, and innovation across digital sales and enablement channels. Roshan is a retail career professional who is passionate about the intersection of product, business, culture, media, and tech, and has spent his career working with dozens of leading retailers. Prior to joining Tapestry, Roshan was at Abercrombie & Fitch, and he also led the digital commerce practice at the global consulting firm AlixPartners. He got his BA from Princeton in behavioral economics and his MBA from NYU Stern. Thank you so much for joining me here today. I'm super excited to have you.
Thanks.
All right, let's just jump right into the questions. Can you walk us through the digital customer experience that you've built at Tapestry?
So one of the things that we're building at Tapestry is a platform. Tapestry is supposed to be a platform for brand growth. And as part of that, we're building a global digital framework to support our brands through marketing and through e-commerce.
Awesome. How do you engage with customers in order to build trust and loyalty?
So, I think trust is really important because it's, first of all, you have to have the customers trust the company, have to trust your brands, and also have to trust the experience of shopping with you, whether that's in store or even harder when it's not in store, when it's through a screen. Then loyalty is also important because it's not, if you're doing all the work to get a new customer for the first time, you'd like to be able to reap the rewards of that by having them come in. So you have to actually add value through that experience. I think first having a rewarding and engaging experience that is attentive to a customer's needs is really how you can start getting that initial trust. The loyalty comes from doing the right thing time and time again, and making sure that you continue that initial, hopefully enjoyable experience from the first purchase, promising that to them again, and then delivering in a repeated manner.
Ooh, I love that. Tell me about, I was at Amazon before coming to Quantometric, and we always talked about our North Star. Mm-hmm. Do you have is there a North Star at Tapestry? What does that look like?
It depends on where you get inspiration from. And of course, online shopping at other great retailers, some of them here, is one way to get inspiration. But I think that to really look forward, it shouldn't just be creating an e-commerce site where I really look to, and not even a digital experience. I think there's a lot that can be also learned from the other digital applications, apps, mobile platforms, streaming services, what you can learn from there. But really, as a North Star, I try to think about what is the best shopping experience and the best engagement experience you can offer customers. Often I see that in stores. So really, when we're thinking about what the North Star should be, I try to use the inspiration of what would the world's best sales associate do? How would they greet the customer when they walk in? How would they understand what their needs are? How would they communicate how their needs and our own brand promises interact and tie together? How would they guide them through a shopping experience? And if that's successful, and maybe if it's not, because look, we've got a very considered purchase. We don't need to get that conversion in that first session. But how do you follow up knowing what they're interested in and continue that relationship, not just until you get the first transaction, but continuing through the lifetime?
Ooh, I like that. I think at Amazon, we used to talk about the store always being open 24/7, 365, and how do you make sure you're always meeting or exceeding that customer's experience? So let me ask you, how do you meet the customer's experience in every part of the day?
Well, because my team's here, and I'd like to have them work 24 hours a day, but so far,
If only.
so far they're not. So we try to support our human intelligence. Is everyone leaving? You're all quitting now?
Yeah, now I'm quit.
Okay, all right, cool. So we try to support our human intelligence with great technology, because technology can enable us to have monitoring, tracking, and drive insights to us even when we're away from our computers, even when we're away from a conference room, even when we're away from each other. So we have to have the right foundation so that the store can be open 24/7. But we don't need to be monitoring it. Sometimes the technology can let us know if there's something that we need to take action on.
Got it. Switching gears here, with Tapestry's global reach, how has your team approached building a digital experience for an international audience?
Yeah. So part of it is understanding the goals of creating a unified experience. I think that that's an approach we're taking that maximizes the learning that we can share not only across brands, but also across geographies. On the other side, while it's important to also be very relevant to localized experiences, you can also get inspiration from other parts of the globe. For instance, markets in Asia, notably China, that in some ways are kind of advanced or a couple of years or months ahead of where we are in the US. What can we do to learn from some of the practices, customs, technologies, ways of shopping in other markets, and then actually bring that into the US and learn from the best people, not only in the US, but across the world?
We used to have a very similar format at Amazon where other countries might be innovating at different speeds, and we take the best of the best and bring it back to the US and vice versa, right? Tests that worked super well in the US, we would roll out to other geographies.
Yeah, global reach, of course, it's a huge responsibility to be able to do that well, but it also can be a source of inspiration.
Definitely. And I know in previous discussions, we talked about how you've built a common platform across all of the geographies and using the principle of standing taller together across Tapestry. So I'm curious because I wouldn't call it like super sexy work to build a common platform, but it's foundational.
Come on, you saw the video.
I mean, the products, right? Okay. The marketing, amazing. Right. But it's foundational, right? It's really important to be able to scale and innovate at a faster pace. So talk to me about that process and what were some of the trade-offs that you weighed when making that decision?
Like everyone kind of how to build a platform company. Like platforms are a big buzzword right now. Not sure if there's a real definition for it, but one definition that I like at least is building something that people can build bigger things on top of. That's what we're really trying to do. We're building the Tapestry platform so that we have our 3 current great, strong brands can express themselves, can drive growth in themselves, and can really show as an example for what the power of a multi-brand enterprise can provide. In terms of trade-offs, change is scary. Our brands had marketing. Our brands had e-commerce. They were very successful. Why change that? Why try to break that? I think it's important to realize that if you have a vision where there are positives to come from clearing out some old code, starting with new technology, enabling us not just to drive growth where we are right now, but where we want to be in 2, 3, 5 years, the odds started to stack towards the reasons to build the type of framework that we're building now.
Yeah, I think that's so interesting. Again, at Amazon, we had a decentralized system so that teams could build within search, detail page, et cetera, and then just meet the guidelines that those central teams put in place. And that really helped speed up innovation and allow us to test things that we could build on our own rather than waiting for those central teams to build them for us. Mm-hmm. So I agree, though. It can be really scary, and that's a big change because there's that loss of control.
Yep.
Right? But I think it's a good trade-off in terms of the innovation that you can achieve on the flip side.
We hope so. There's always the, why fix something that ain't broke?
Yeah.
But I think there's always opportunities to be better than where we're at right now.
Got it. All right, let's switch gears to the customer. So customer expectations, they're changing all the time. We know it. And so what are some of the shifts in expectations that your team has reinvented at Tapestry?
Yeah. Everyone's been saying, the pandemic has changed expectations. What are you guys doing because of the pandemic? Honestly, a lot of the strategy that we have in place as Tapestry actually has a acceleration program beyond just digital. That was really initially put into place before the pandemic was here. What I think we realize is that are customers' expectations shifting, or are they just getting better? Are they just demanding more? Are they just demanding better? Do we demand to do better ourselves? That's really what I'm trying to drive towards, the teams are trying to drive towards. Despite, I think, convenience is super important. An engaging experience is super important. But we're not necessarily going to ask the customer exactly what they want and give them exactly what they say. I think if you end up doing that, you'll get, say, 70% off every day and hand delivery of everything. I think what we want to do is provide value to our customers. I think we want to provide differentiated and relevant value that ties into how our brands stand, what they stand for, what principles we stand for as a company, and try to deliver that in the best, most effective, most efficient way possible.
I agree with everything that you just said, and I think it's really
thank you.
It can be super tricky to understand when better is enough. Like, when have you hit that mark of okay, we've reinvented to a level that is meeting and or exceeding customer expectations. When should we move on versus, continuing to optimize? How do you think about that?
Yeah. So striving, I think sometimes some people would call me perfect, right? No. Okay. Striving for perfection may be a nice thing to do, but certainly something that I can't achieve. And I don't think that is something that anyone should expect to achieve perfection across all areas. What is important is to do better and be better at the things that matter. Focus on what's going to actually drive value. Set a couple key areas where you can really move the lever and nail that, as opposed to trying to fix every single thing, improve every single thing, drive every single metric. I think there's a couple core ones that if you put significant intentional effort behind can really drive the needle in a much more efficient way than trying to address everything at once.
I think one of the key skills that I learned at Amazon was that ruthless prioritization, because there is kind of this balance that you have to meet in terms of when to move on versus when to keep optimizing and seeing if you can get that big win for the customer. And that's a tricky skill to learn. So I think it's a really interesting way to hear how your team approaches it.
Of course, your guys are also building spaceships, so maybe sometimes that's worthwhile.
Not in the retail group,
right.
But okay. Talk to me about customer insights. How do you use data within your organization? How do you find those insights?
Yeah. Okay, so data's a funny thing. Some of you might have heard this phrase, "Data's the new oil." I think that's one way I think it's a ridiculous statement. Another way, I think it's right, but not in the way that it's intended. I think it's intended to mean like data is value, where in reality, it's like oil because it's underground. You have to have like machinery to get at it. If it spills, it causes natural disasters, whether that's credit card breaches or just kind of bad analysis done. The point isn't, I think, just to have a lot of data and collect a lot of data. I think what's important to do is connect, not just have reporting, but connect data to insight and then to action. That's really what we've tried to do. Have the right pieces of information, have them assessed by real talented individuals who can change data into insight about the business, insight about our products, insight about our customers, use that information then to communicate cross-functionally and across teams, then to make an actual change in the business. I think back in the day, we used to have people, at least in my old company, who had like stacks and binders of reports. Sure, that's a whole lot of data, it's a whole lot of information, but when you've got those binders, it's tough to actually do anything of use of it. So we really try to prioritize what action will you be able to take, what positive result will you have for our customers or for our business, and prioritize that action as opposed to just having data for data's sake.
I have to say, I've never heard the oil analogy, but it resonates with me. And at Amazon, data, if you could mine your own data, that was super powerful there. And so I'm even proud to admit I could edit some basic SQL queries, but the rock stars at Amazon could write SQL. The product managers could go out and answer their own questions and really be able to showcase data that proved or disproved their hypothesis. And that was super powerful in terms of deciding where we should spend our time and what new insights we could uncover about our customers as their behavior continues to change. Okay, so we talked about data, but tell me about how you share that data and the processes for collaboration. Yep. I think in previous discussions, you used the phrase, retail is a team sport. I love that phrase. Yep. How did you work together using that data?
Okay. So another saying that maybe no one else has ever heard of. I used to go somewhere where people were like, okay, you bring your opinions and I'll bring my data and I'll prove you wrong. It's like, in some ways, that, and everyone talks about how do you influence others. It maybe needs to come to a place where collaboration isn't trying to influence others, but presenting information so that people can come to their own opinions. And that if you have a cross-functional collaborative team, they'll generally come together, they'll come to the right answer independently, a common answer independently. As opposed to trying to convince someone because you did analysis in a different way. That's super important to us because I think that retail, and even more so, e-commerce, digital, is such a team sport. It's so cross-functional. I don't know, if you're in a bank, you're all doing bankery stuff. But we work in a business where you have to have people design the product, manufacture the product, ship the product, ship it back out to stores, market to customers, get people to the website, have them shop on the website, fulfill the order afterwards, communicate with them. There's so many different people with different skill sets, different ways of communication, different things that are important, different priorities, that if you don't approach it as a team sport, you'll never succeed. If you try to just have rock stars that play for themselves, while they may move independent metrics, they're never going to move the metrics that require the collaboration and the balanced approach to really drive success for the organization and the enterprise.
I like what you said in terms of everyone has access to the same data and then forms their own opinion. And I can't tell you how many times at Amazon, everyone would just flip to like an appendix in the back of like a 6-page document, and they'd go through all the detailed numbers and ask questions. Those stories are true. That's actually how we conducted meetings at Amazon. But that really resonated with me as well because, right, you want to see the chart and then ask your questions, form your own opinion. Yep. So I think that's super important.
And part of collaboration is trusting one another. So you trust one another to kind of do the job, trusting one another to support each other, trust one another to come to an answer that's the best answer based off of their own insight, as opposed to trying to convince someone that your idea is the right idea.
Yeah. And right, so you're deep in the data, everyone's forming their own opinion, but again, how do you bring the customer to the forefront and make sure you're not forgetting about them?
Yeah, so for me, it's simple. because there's one, like, I don't care about being right. I care about being successful. And if you don't do something right for the customer, they're not going to buy anything, and then you're not going to make any money. And that does me no good. That does us no good. So having a focus on what is driving value from our customer, what will then drive our business performance to continue not just the, I think, $1 billion of digital sales growth that we've achieved, but to continue on that pathway and where we want to get to. It's essential that we do the right thing, not just for ourselves, not just for our teams, but do the right thing for the customer to maintain and continue driving the business that we want to do.
Yeah, exactly. I think happy customers make purchases, and customers aren't going to sugarcoat their opinion, right? Like, so many people at Amazon would read through customer reviews because that's where you're going to see like the nitty gritty, like this was good, this was bad, and really hear their true opinion. So I love that, being able to parse out ways to see, okay, what is the customer actually saying, and being able to earn their trust is super important.
And we've created a specific voice of the customer team within the digital team at Tapestry. I know members of our teams have kind of been scarred by some of the comments that customers have left. But that's important for us to know, to continue to see where we're missing and fix it. Not only have we continued to address those items, but we're investing even further on getting more information from our customers at different parts of their journey. Understanding after they make a purchase, how happy are they with us? Giving them an opportunity to give us feedback while they're making a shopping experience. And I think there's even more ways to go if we're identifying opportunities or missed opportunities that we're making. How do we proactively try to assess what a customer is feeling at that point in time and what we should be doing differently to make them feel better?
Awesome. I love that. I mean, I think it's so important to empathize with that customer and also be able to kind of size up how important is this to the overall business, right? So that you can help inform your roadmap and prioritization. That quantified empathy, I think, is like a true skill that's learned and developed over time.
It's such an interesting phrase. Like you talked about my background briefly. I was always interested in. So I majored in psychology, and yes, Dad, I have a job now. And I was always fascinated by how do you try to map what people are feeling to an impact that you can measure, analyze, graph. And if you combine that with the idea that, let's go with another marketing phrase, that customers don't buy products and services, they try to fulfill a need, or they have a job that needs to be done. If you take that attitude, it's really about you really have to get to what is the customer need at any point in time. What does the customer need when they're buying a product? So taking that into advice when you're actually doing the design and merchandising, or what's the customer need when they are walking into a store, when they are scrolling through Instagram, when they're coming to our website. How do you make sure we're taking a lens to what we think the customer wants, needs, is looking for when we're designing these experiences?
Got it. All right, final question. What lessons have you learned that you can share with our audience?
Sure. Do we have another 2 hours, or?
Give me your top 2 or 3.
Look, I think we've had tremendous success, but none of it happens without the teams working together. I think that the collaboration that we've been able to achieve across teams, and this is from creating a centralized digital team that has to work seamlessly with the brands to achieve their goals, to achieve their objectives, to understand what they want for the brands, and then having the partnership to be able to then deliver that between the how, the what, and the why. I think having that collaboration across teams is really essential for driving growth. A lot of the times where we've had missteps along the way have been not from any mistakes beyond lack of collaboration and understanding. I think that goes a long way to driving through positive successes.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. Unlike other panels, we would love to do Q&A. So if anyone has a question, please feel free to raise your hand or stand up, and then we've got mic runners that'll come over and make sure we can hear you.
I talk pretty loudly, but that was great. So, quick question: how do you use, or I guess like, is it even easy to use customer insights like lifetime value or channel preferences or product preferences across all three brands?
Yeah.
For like e-com and for store activity.
All right. So you mentioned, everyone at Amazon knows how to use SQL. Well, we don't. So I think part of like the first thing you need to do is lifetime value is super important. But usually, if you're trying to decipher that, requires going into the bowels of a data science team to run miles of code and chug out an answer out of the computer. I think the first thing that's important that we've tried to do is enable insights at the hands of normal human business users who don't have to know how to use code. So first, just getting that data in a accessible way is really important. So getting out of that analytics barrier, those analytics roadblocks. Then is presenting it, seeing it, understanding what goals should be. A lot of things get lost in averages. Like, it's not very useful to know that your average lifetime value is X $100. What's potentially more useful is that you've got a cohort with low value, you've got a cohort with high value. And then deciding where you want to focus on. Then being intentional about what actions you want to have to different cohorts. And then driving the numbers in that manner, as opposed to saying, okay, we've got this one global number that we're trying to see tick up, because you can't be as intentional in driving activities, whether it's knowing that, you said channel preference, so whether it's knowing that they're a store shopper versus online shopper, or a value shopper versus full price shopper. I think having the ability to have the insight about the customer at an actionable level without having to go into the bowels of quant analysis is really essential for driving growth.
We actually had a pretty similar process at Amazon where we sold everything. So across the categories, there would be similar metrics that we would track, like customer lifetime value. But then different categories would have unique cohorts where we would measure different types of metrics. We still did work in our decentralized SQL way, so you could still run your own analysis on what that lifetime value was. But I think it's a really interesting way to approach how to analyze the business and get back to those customer insights.
Hello, this is great. You mentioned that it's all about teaming. How is the change management to make sure that the traditional channels and the e-commerce work together and don't view themselves as just cannibalization and competing with each other within Tapestry?
Yeah, great question. So our mandate is to drive omni-channel outcomes. Yes, as in the part of the digital team, I look at the e-com store numbers more frequently, but we're traditionally a store retailer. Much more than 50% of our revenue is in stores. I think when it was joined, it was 90%. I'd much rather drive a 1% increase in comp in store than online. Do I care? I try to care more about our customer value than our channel value. If our customer wants to shop in store, I'm happy to market to them digitally. I'm happy to have them engage with our site and do all the right things digitally that then enable them to shop with the store associate.
Maybe just to chime in, one of the key tactics we used at Amazon was a shared goal. There were plenty of teams that were in conflict with each other all the time, and we would take a VP level shared goal. And that really helped us to work together and work through those change management processes. Are there any other questions?
Hey, great session. Long-time listener, first-time caller. So, you mentioned about having that sales associate be, what's the best sales associate that you can have? Is there a difference between web and mobile, and how did you approach that differently? So.
I think predominantly it's what's the customer context when they're in each situation. I think if you're in a store, maybe some people want to just have their headphones in and not connect with anyone. But it's much easier for a store associate to suss that out. I think if you're on digital, if you're on your phone especially, you first have to suss out, do they want to engage with someone? If they do, provide those options. So I think there's a way to be able to tailor the experience to the context of where the person is in, either by explicitly acting or asking in some form or manner, or implicitly using other data signals that help you be able to tell, all right, looks like they're just browsing today. Okay, no, they're actually looking to buy this specific product. Oh, they've scrolled for miles and miles, looks like they're not finding something. Maybe we should reach out and take a proactive action to improve that experience.
Great. Well, thank you so much for your time. This was a great session. We really appreciate you joining us for lunch. And thank you again, Commerce Next, for hosting us today. And thank you, Roshan, for joining us. We really appreciated this conversation.
Thanks, everybody. Thanks,
Have a
Elissa.
great day, everyone. Thanks.